Alright, so I didn't plan on making a video today, but I was inspired by some movements. Um this video is called A Study into Gangstalking 6 Experiments. While it was fresh on my brain, while I just did it, I wanted to note an experiment I just conducted uh, to gauge timing and response and presence over a period of 10 minutes uh, based off the activities that I was doing inside the home. So without further ado, we're going to get into the video. Now, I made this slide just so I could speak about how they try to normalize their behavior, meaning when they become present, they'll try to appear as normal as possible, like they're a part of the environment. Um, but given that they respond to private activities that take place inside of the home, we know that to not be true. We know that they're just appearing as such. And yeah, man, there's really not much I should say anymore. I could just direct you to the presentation that I put out that I created yesterday, 6/25/2018. Today is 6/26. These videos may not be posted until a later date. However, there is some great information in in a gang study, a study in the gang stalking part 5 that really it's not my work. I'm just reading from something, and it just goes into so much more detail. And pretty much, we can say that we now know what we're dealing with. We know what we're up against. We know their tricks. Uh, we know the level of severity. We know that we are placed in a dangerous situation. We know pretty much we have a good amount of information at this point. We may not know exactly what organization is conducting this, but we have some good legs to stand on. Um, but yeah, this slide is just so I can tell you that when they do these types of things, um, you will notice, but to the other world, the rest of the world, they'll try to make their behavior seem normal for that environment. If you're in a restaurant, if you're out and about, like stuff like that. Okay, 6/26/2018. Experiment with timing and presence, meaning um, while I was purposely doing certain activities, I was noticing around me the timing of events and the presence, who's going to show up, uh, what type of activities is going to take place. So around 2:50, I decided to make a smoothie. Now, it's not the most masculine thing to do, and I didn't have this experiment in mind while I was making this smoothie. But, um, I'm in the kitchen. Now, in other videos, we've already talked about what happens when someone in the house is in that area of the house. You usually get a response by some type of vehicle pulling up around the property. And lately, I've been hearing a train. We're not giving them credit to be that resourceful, yet we're not putting it past them to be able to uh, have those types of vehicles ready, such as a train, to slow up traffic because they have slowed up traffic countless times. So while I was using the blender in the kitchen to make a smoothie, I took a walk around the house. We did notice there was a car pull up, familiar car, and we noticed the train. That was around 2:50 p.m. Around 3:03, my activity. I went to the restroom. The response. There was a heavy activity of cars around the area. There was constant vehicles driving past the house, back to back to back. So I decided around 3:05 that I was going to use this as an experiment. I was already noting it, mentally. So around 3:05, I decided I'm going to turn off all the noise in the house. And then I was going to notice 10 minutes of activity. Okay. So we're going to go to the next slide. Excuse me, the next slide. So around 3:05, I've done this experiment, by the way. Side note, countless amounts of time. Usually, the response is people making themselves physically present uh, in the proximity of where I live. There'll be cars parked directly in front of the house, to the side of the house. There'll be people outside of vehicles physically present, etc., etc. So, um, I decided to do it again. Turn off all the noise in the house. Uh, you know, uh, Note about 10 minutes of activity just to see what will happen. And this is the response that I got. Okay, vehicles were constantly driving past the house. I even noticed the presence of a utility vehicle, ones with uh, the beeping backup, a heavy vehicle. I know there's a couple of heavy vehicles. I heard people come outside and begin to, I can hear them through the walls of the house speaking. It sounded like they was close to the property, which isn't abnormal. Like I told you, usually this is the type of things that happen. You'll have a presence of people, not in vehicles, on foot, speaking or walking past the house. You'll have neighbors come outside when I do this type of things. And last but not least, a particular car that I was expecting to show up actually showed up, and that was just the bonus. That was like a cherry on top of the sundae. I wasn't really expecting that to happen, but once I heard the noise, I was like, I bet you, and then it was. So, without particularly incriminating people, we have noticed a pattern of behavior over the course. I keep telling you, it's been 2 years that I've noticed it at this level. So, um, this particular presentation might take place over a period of time. Today is 6/26. I might conduct other types of experiments. I can't keep doing this every time because they're going to adjust properly, as we've seen in the last presentation. So, uh, you know, I might wait again until tomorrow to conduct another type of experiment. I might wait, et cetera, et cetera. So, as you can see, there is a response, uh, and there's common correlations to activities inside of the home, and these people that we suspect are invading our privacy. You may not be able to visually see it. This is just written out, and really, I don't know how to get you to visually see it. Uh, but um, yeah, over a course of time, we'll continue to conduct experiments, and this is the first time we've done this plenty of times. Just to ourselves, just to, and I say we, um, because I just don't like speaking of myself. But we isn't me only, because I'm the only one that really does these types of things. So I have conducted this type of experiments countless times, and if I can find the ones that I've actually took note of, I'll add it to this presentation. But this is just the responses that we notice on a daily basis. Okay, so I mentioned vehicles parking outside of the hidden camera visibility, which is an old phone that I use to capture, not capture the footage, but just to monitor the front of the house. And they'll park themselves outside of this visibility area. It's a very small window, so we only have so much to see. And as you can see, they'll park themselves directly, like literally, as small as that little view was, they'll park themselves around it purposefully. So we're moving on. Okay, so that experiment I tried earlier in the day, I decided to try it again, inadvertently though. Um, I noticed around 7:36 p.m. I had placed some headphones on my ears, uh, and I noticed almost immediately following, about 2 or 3 minutes immediately following, someone starts playing loud music uh, from outside. And by loud music, I mean very loud speakers to where I can hear it, from where they were. So I decided um, to start thinking about my activities and the responses I got. Again, so if you can follow, 7:57 p.m. my activity was walking in the kitchen heating up pizza rolls. The response, again, there was a train plus some movement of vehicles. And by movement, I mean cars driving back and forth. So if you've been following from the beginning of the videos, when I was in the kitchen again making a smoothie this afternoon, we had a train almost immediately. You hear the loud train horn that goes off when there's a train approaching. 8:47. So I was watching TV. 8:47 p.m. After Luke Cage, the show I was watching, goes off. I decided to turn off all sound activity again. Also, my father began cooking in the kitchen. So there was someone in the kitchen, but at the same time, I cut off all the noise. Okay, and this is what follows. 8:53 p.m. my activity, no sound, just sitting, gauging responses. The response I get, we have a horn honking plus car movement, people driving back and forth, music playing, someone pulling into proximity yet not in usual spot. Uh, so I believe when I went out to check, didn't go out, but when I looked out to check, there was already a vehicle present, parked, and I believe that was a response to the person being in the kitchen cooking, and because that's the usual response we get. However, this person wasn't parked in the usual spot; they were parked in a different location, trying to steer clear of views of cameras. Um, so again, we have no sound. 8:47. Uh, I moved locations. I went from one room to the other, and I prepared to restore sound via YouTube video. Okay, so 8:53, there was no sound, but there was already someone there. So I waited a bit, heard some movements, cars going back and forth, yada yada yada, etc., etc. Decided to restore sound around 8:47 p.m. Okay, 9:03, played a 3-minute video on YouTube, found a video I want to watch, played it. The response, more people pulled up outside, and they sat outside the camera view. So we have more people pulling up to the property. Next slide. 9:05 p.m. My activity, decided to play music via computer speakers, expected cars to leave. Normally when there's no sound and I restore sound, a lot of times these people would drive off, which is how I know that they were monitoring this location. Okay. So decided to play some music, expect them to leave. The response, no cars left. One of the people, when I looked out, was wearing a lime green shirt with high visibility vest. The reflective vest that people wear. Noted that the computer is not plugged in into an outlet and no Wi-Fi card is installed. So this was a laptop I was using. It wasn't plugged in with the plug into the outlet. It was off battery power, and I have removed this Wi-Fi card. So maybe it wasn't possible for them to have access to this device at this time. So I thought again, and I decided to play music via studio monitor speakers. The setup involves hooking up wires and plugging things in. Used to use this activity to make it look like I was monitoring them. They would always leave the area. Um, Last year, uh, I've always knew that they were invading the privacy of this location. So I would set up like a little fake phony monitoring station to make it look like I was monitoring them. I would sit with my headphones. I would uh, act like I was hooking up wires and my microphone and stuff like that. And usually the response was they would always leave, you know. So it's been a while since I've done that because I don't feel the need to do that anymore because I know now, like I'm 100% sure that these people are invading the privacy of this home and monitoring this home. Um, so around 9:11 p.m., my activity, still playing music through computer speakers only. The response, two cars drove by playing music almost immediately after. Okay, so I decided to play music speakers around 9:05. I started playing them around 9:11. Okay, and immediately after playing this music, a car drove by playing music, and then a few seconds later after that, another car drove by playing music. So we have another instance of mimicking. 9:17 p.m. My activity setup of speakers complete. Music is now playing from a bigger speaker. The response: music played again from outside for a brief moment. So again, once I played them from the bigger speaker, there was a music being like it's almost a call and response thing. Um, music was being played from the outside and it was heard inside this home. Note: this music has been checked before for how loud it is outside and is not able to be heard unless you are standing very close to the house, meaning on the porch, or standing directly outside the window. Meaning, enable for someone to know what I was doing inside this house, they would have to have been monitoring my position, my activity. They would have to have been invading the privacy. With everything I do, I only do things to where someone would have to know via invading privacy to know what I was doing. So for them to respond in any way is a telltale sign. Okay. So 9:21 p.m. my activity, decided to take out trash to see what was happening. Note: I decided to place my phone directly in front of the speaker with the mic facing the speaker. The result I got was shocking. A white van was parked in front of the house by the time I looked out again. So I've been trying to find where this source of sound is coming from, and my phone, I know for sure, is a source of sound for these people. If I play a video on my phone, they'll respond by playing music or something like that almost all the time. Or if I leave, audio on my phone too long, some people will pull up. So my idea is that they're trying to get access to sound in the house by being closer. So, um, I'll put the phone directly next to the speaker, like literally in front of it, with the microphone facing the phone to kind of bombard that phone with sound. And by the time I looked out again after doing this, there was a white utility van parked in front of the house. I told you before that there was someone actually wearing a lime green shirt with reflective vest. So at 9:27 p.m., I decided to take the trash out. By the time I gathered enough trash to take out, all parties were literally driving off as I was opening the door, except for that white van. So I'll let you read this slide without saying anything for a specific reason. I'll let you read this slide as well without saying anything. I'll show you that slide without saying anything. You can look directly in the middle. And I'll show you this slide without saying anything. If you look to your left, doesn't that remind you of a former presentation? Now, the scene of the white van and the green shirt was oddly familiar. It was familiar to the orientation videos I was watching on my phone of my new job at Amazon. So, at like around 6 o'clock, I was on my phone going through these little stupid orientation videos that I gotta look at. And to show you how familiar this scene was, I'll let you look at this. Okay? So, there was possibly another form of mimicking. But as we discovered yesterday in our reading material, the whole purpose of these people being here, they expect to be seen, they expect to be noticed. The driving off is it's a very dramatic thing, as you'll see. Like they expect to do that. They expect you to notice and to try to, catch them in the act almost, so they can do this dramatic drive off and stuff like that. Because we know from what we learned yesterday, these is just a distraction. This is the distraction group, and there's actual proprietors are actually in place, uh, trying to remain hidden. Okay, so this little distraction group, they're going to do these things, and we're not going to be bothered by them But it's nice to chronicleize them. If I said that right, to chronicle them just so we can better understand. It's always good to have good information. Um, and you can see, everything isn't something. Some of these are just things that happen, but I note everything while I'm conducting this particular experiment. Okay. And for any of this to be an actual response to any of my activities, seeing as these activities are inside the home only, my privacy would have had to have been invaded. Okay. A response to anything that I do on my phone, my privacy has to have had been invaded. Okay, so just so you know, I'm constantly checking around the house to see if there's any vulnerability as far as visibility. If anybody could stand from the street and see anything that I do, and no, there's absolutely no way. You can't even hear the music if you're standing off the porch. You have to actually be standing close to the door. And the music's loud. That's how insulated the sound is in here. So for anybody to respond in any way, um, you pretty much are showing yourself. You're telling on yourself. And with that information that we've gathered yesterday, uh, you know, that's all I have to say. Which was nothing. I didn't say anything, but um, that's all I can do is laugh because we now know what is happening to an extent. Like we know what's going on now. We may not know who is actually conducting this or who is ordering this around, but we know what's happening because it's been written. So I thank you for giving me any attention that you gave this video, and I wish you all the best in your journey. I hope that we come to more understanding and are able to reveal more about this as time goes along. But yeah, I mean, like anything that they do, just the mimicking alone is an act of aggression because they had to steal that information to do that. And they're purposely doing that to agitate you. So that becomes an act of aggression. That's why I take this serious. I live my life, you know, and I actually enjoy making videos like this. But, in the back of my head, I'm taking this very serious. I'm watching these people very seriously because their presence alone is an act of aggression. An unknown party of people monitoring your location, responding to activities that you do inside of your house, you know, mobbing you, surrounding you with their presence, mocking you, mimicking you, it's an act of aggression. So I hope anybody listening is taking what they're going through very seriously, taking their safety seriously, the safety of their loved ones seriously. Live your life, laugh it off. Some of this is hilarious. A lot of the things they do are ridiculous to the point of comedy, but it's still serious. So I wish you guys the best. And until next time.